to his hometown in San Juan.
Has he been to Sandigan Bayan? He has been there, apparently.
No, the former president never had to set foot back at the Sandigan Bayan again.
It was not required?
It was not required. It was the DILG Secretary Ronnie Puno who had delivered the executive clemency papers to the former president for him to sign. And those papers have been...
that makes it's complete and accepted.
Right. So, all right, just to clarify, it appears that what the former president had signed was the release order.
The release order.
Which, of course, had come from the Sandigan Bayan, had been transmitted back to him, hand-carried by DILG Secretary Ronnie Puno. And I guess with that, we are seeing now the beginning of President Estrada's trip to freedom. Moving out of his Tanay rest house after more than 6 years in detention on the charges of plunder for which he was convicted earlier in the middle of September. Now moving out of his Tanay rest house, taking the 40-minute or so trip back to his hometown in San Juan, where his family and his supporters have prepared a hero's welcome for the former president. Now that he's a free man after 6.5 years or so in detention.
You know, plunder, because the crime of plunder does not grant bail. That's the reason for the 6 years. In other words, even before any conviction, the fact that the indictment was made regarding the case of plunder, he has to go to jail. He has to suffer imprisonment because it does not allow the grant of bail. That's the harshness of that case, of that plunder.
Well, of course, there are some observers who have recalled that this is not the first plunder case.
No, it is not. There was a woman, I forgot the name.
Yes, you're correct.
There's a woman who was charged and still suffering, convicted.
Convicted and imprisoned.
Yes, and still languishing in prison.
People are also asking why, in this case, a former president, the highest official of the land, convicted of plunder, would be speedily granted executive clemency, whereas somebody who was also convicted and imprisoned for plunder, not somehow enjoying the same mercy.
You stated it. It's a former president.
Right, and
that makes a lot of difference.
That gives him some sort of special treatment, I guess.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
All
difference.
right, Solicitor General Goja, I believe former President Estrada now going to speak to us now on the line. Mr. Estrada, magandang hapon po. Sir? President Estrada? All right, we lost the connection, but I think, and hopefully, former President Estrada will get back on the line to speak with us. Pia.
So 5:27 in the afternoon, Mr. Estrada's exiting the gates of his rest house in Tanay, Rizal, where he spent the last 6 years of his life. Very interesting history here. April 25, 2001, that was the day that the Sandigan Bayan and the Philippine National Police had served a warrant of arrest on Mr. Estrada while he was staying at his Polk Street residence in Green Hills. We all remember the crowds, the multitudes of people who came out on the streets. We also remember how people reacted. Well, at least his supporters had reacted when he was brought to Camp Crame, photographed, fingerprinted, and then brought to the Veterans Memorial Medical Center, where he spent a few months before he was transferred to Tanay, Rizal. In the last 6 years, Mr. Estrada has been giving interviews on and off, making declarations, supporting also the run for the presidency of his best friend, the late Fernando Poe Jr. Yesterday afternoon, finally, at the end of this very long 6-year trial in his life, Mr. Estrada was granted executive clemency or pardon by President Gloria Arroyo. Of course, different reactions from different sectors from different people. So again, for those of you just joining us now, Mr. Estrada has just left his Tanay rest house after accepting the grant of executive clemency given by President Arroyo. He and, the motorcade with him making its way back to, again, his residence in Polk Street in North Green Hills. Earlier we had seen plenty of video of his residence, his family and friends had placed orange ribbons on the gate, orange posters saying "Erap Mabuhay," and I guess to welcome him home. Yeah, there were also posters saying "Welcome." Ano ba yun? Welcome home. Sorry, welcome home.
Yes.
Yeah. Now these are.
Just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, just taken a few minutes ago. Mr. Estrada walking to the table at Tanay Rizal. I suppose
To sign to accept the release order issued by the Sandigan Bayan. Sitting beside President Estrada is the DILG Secretary Ronnie Puno, who's also the political affairs advisor for Malacanang. Was that a story, Pia, that DILG Secretary Puno actually shed tears?
Well, yeah, earlier when Cez Rilon did a live report within Shop Talk, she did say that she did get word that Secretary Puno had shed tears when Mr. Estrada had signed the acceptance papers in front of him.
Yeah.
But, well, it would be interesting to speak to Ronnie Puno also to find out about that. I suppose it was an emotional time for him too because he did serve as
DILG Secretary as well.
Secretary for during the
During the
term
Estrada
of
administration.
Mr. Estrada while Joseph Estrada was president. So this is an emotional time for him, I suppose too.
He was DILG Secretary when the former president left Malacanang on January 20th in 2001. And he's still DILG Secretary now that President Estrada is leaving detention from his Tanay rest house. So somehow the cycle is complete, isn't it, Solicitor General Doho?
Yeah, well, he got himself emotional regarding this. He served during the time of Estrada.
In a way, this is a very interesting twist in the story because we all remember very clearly how Mr. Estrada had said before he was convicted for plunder on September 12 that he would not accept and not ask for any pardon whatsoever because he felt that he was innocent, that he did not need a pardon to clear his name. But, well, things have changed in the last 6 weeks and did take this pardon. It's not clear, though, you know, both sides, a few days ago, Tony, we were speaking to Rene Sagisag and he was saying that it was the palace that was offering the pardon to them, but Malacanang saying, no, it was the other way around. It was Mr. Estrada's camp that had asked for pardon. The palace also presenting a letter, a 3-page letter, dated October 22, addressed to President Arroyo and signed by Attorney Jose Flaminiano, one of the lawyers for Mr. Estrada, asking for that pardon, asking for a grant of pardon.
And the letter of Attorney Jose Flaminiano citing several factors with which they considered accepting a presidential pardon, one of which was the 6 years that the former president had already spent in detention in his Tanay rest house, and the other factor I think also because appealing to, I guess, the humane considerations of President Arroyo is that the former president's mother, 102-year-old Doña Mary Ejercito, still clinging to life, but barely. She's just on a respirator now at the San Juan Medical Center. And somehow the idea of having the former president still in detention, if his mother does pass away, perhaps too much of a somehow of a personal crisis, even for the former president and his supporters to bear.
Well, actually, it was a surprise when they had changed their situation, in the sense that they were very firm about going through with the judicial process. That is where they filed, in fact, a motion for reconsideration.
Yes.
But then, of course, I thought that they were going to appeal, because I did not see any ray of hope on the part of Estrada and his lawyers in regard to the motion for
And I guess,
reconsideration.
admittedly, so they did not see that kind of hope
because
at all.
it is the same set of justices who will rule on that motion
And the
for
Supreme Court
reconsideration.
itself would be in a quandary if they would have to acquit former President Estrada.
Yeah, but my own experience that when you go to the Supreme Court, when I was Solicitor General,
Right.
you have a good chance as well. In other words, you can point out, and the Supreme Court is a different venue, especially in questions of law. My own experience, of course, there is also another factor there because the Solicitor General can also participate actively as the People's Tribune.
Yeah.
You know, the Solicitor General is the